This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Aaron Hines, husband, father, author, and entrepreneur, health coaching and fitness, business ownership. We're going to talk about that today. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's a great day to be on the podcast.
Want to thank you again for being on the show. Want to let our listeners know or viewers know that you can see that icon up there that says listen on Newsly. We are a featured podcast on that platform. So for everybody watching today, if you use that coupon code, you can get 1 month free premium subscription to check that out so you can listen to us on Newsly later today. And we're actually at episode with the podcast. I believe we're at episode 982 with this episode getting closer to 1,000 episodes. That's tracking on Apple Podcast. And I want to let people know that also we have your website up, which is premierperformancetrainer.com. That will be fully clickable when we're published on all the platforms. So if people click on that, what happens when they connect to that URL?
So when they pop up, they'll get a little bit more understanding about who I am and what I do. You can also follow me at the top of the website there on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm on YouTube, mainly sharing videos of clients working out or testimonial videos, and all the social aspects of Premier Performance training. But also on there, you'll find the very bottom, and this is just kind of a story I share with just a nonprofit I support called the Eli Grow Foundation. That is just in honor of one of the kids I used to train who tragically passed away on his way home from workouts. So that's just something that I share with all my clients and all my kids that I work with. So just something a little extra on there for that.
We do encourage our viewers to check out the URLs of the people of the guest on the show, so you can get further information from what we talk about. And again, we're going to talk about today is health coaching and fitness business ownership, which is like our primary topic. But we're going to go into some of the things you like to talk about relating to this topic. So maybe we can start with like, how did you get into the fitness industry?
Yeah, so I started, so I'm late 30s now. I started exercising more intently when I was 16 years old. So I kind of got an itch for working out in high school slightly. I wasn't really probably my favorite with that,
Mhm.
but just met a guy who his son was on the football team I played on, and he was former bodybuilder back in, I think, the 80s back in Florida. So I saw his son was a freshman. He was a pretty big kid, and I was like, "What is this guy doing?" I was a junior, and so I was kind of like, "I need to talk to this guy and figure out what he's been doing, so I can maybe join that." Because I mean, I was a decent athlete, but I wasn't very big and strong. I was probably 170, and
You
I
wanted to
started
get
working
bigger.
out, and I wanted to get bigger. Yeah, and by the end of my senior year, I ended up about 230. So big drastic change for that. So that's kind of where I started back in probably 2002, and now I've been doing that for you know almost 21 years,
That's
just
awesome.
working out and helping people. So
Yeah, it's like so when you get in the fitness industry, in terms of having your own business, what made you want to do that? What made you go from like wanting to get to a different fitness level and then saying, "Hey, I want to be like a business owner in this area."
yeah, so I think I mean, it was always a dream of owning my own business, but it really didn't happen until I got fired from my last job. So that was
Mm,
either a blessing in disguise or it was a sign to do something different. So it was I tried a few other things outside of that, and I thought maybe I can do this, maybe I can't, but I stuck it out for just renting from really, as most probably start out, is saying like I'm gonna train a bunch of people and make a bunch of money. Well, there's ebbs and flows of that, right? So I started
mm,
actually renting from a guy at a small gym in town here, and kind of did 3 or 4 extra small jobs just to kind of make things add up for as far as income goes. But I think that was the biggest thing of starting. I mean, it kind of goes back to 2010. I always wanted to own my own gym when I was in grad school, And I didn't
Hmm.
really know what it took. I just knew that working in like corporate gyms off and on. I worked at a bodybuilding gym in Tallahassee, Florida in grad school, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It'd be kind of cool, things I learned of what not to do, running a business, and what you could do better. I didn't know everything, but that was just kind of where kind of piqued my interest from 2010. And I didn't
Hmm.
start my own business until 2000, I think it was 16. I think that's right. Yeah, I can do math right. I've been in business almost 8 years. Um,
Hmm.
just just kind of plugging away, finding the right people. Started out with two people training at a apartment complex in town, and kind of just went from there.
Well, I
So
think
I
it's
mean,
what I've talked to
it's
a
a little,
lot of people who get to, have, yeah. But I guess in terms of the entrepreneur kind of story, is a lot of people they get thrown into it because they don't like their 9 to 5, or their 9 to 5 doesn't work out, or what they thought they wanted to do as a profession really isn't a hard like interest. They're not. It maybe they felt like they were had to do it, and then they really discovered that that's not really them, right? That's not who they are, and they kind of felt like, can you love your job? I think that's a big thing. What I found with a lot of people I talk to on the podcast, who end up having some their own dream, because a lot of people like, they feel like, oh, well, society wants me to work for this Fortune 500 company. They want me to work for this small business. That's what you normally do, right? That's what most people don't want to take the responsibility, or really feel that they have a limiting belief. They don't think they can do it. And then sometimes
yeah,
something happens, chaotic, or some kind of crucible moment, and then suddenly you have like, oh, I can try this. And so does that kind of fit what happened? Like, you finally like, well, now I have an opportunity. Let me see if I can do this.
yeah. So that, I mean, that was kind of the to kind of backtrack before. I mean, I was working at the local YMCA, like coming out of grad school. You're like, man, I'm gonna conquer the world. Everything's gonna be great. I'm gonna get a good job, and it just didn't happen right away. So I worked at the Y. I was a health coach. I wasn't working 9 to 5. I was working 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Did that for 3 years. I left, and then I was working kind of a corporate orthopedic gym, and it just got to be where it was like 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., like Monday through Friday, and it was kind of burnout. Um, what to do
Mm.
next, and so it was just kind of that kind of. Do you want to go back to maybe the corporate side of fitness, or do you want to do your own thing? So I was just kind of took the jump from there, and um, made it work. There's a lot of things I learned along the way. We could talk about those things, but a lot of mistakes, and
Yeah,
also
yeah.
things I learned that I could be better at too. So that's kind of where I started. So it was
Well, that's the
the
thing a lot.
the yeah, the day I got fired was like, all right, it's time to
Yeah,
do
I
something
mean,
different.
well, a lot of times it's like, the lesson learned. I'm a software guy, and for fitness, I like mountain biking, I like cycling. So I don't. That's kind of like, I don't build up. I kind of get to a lean state to be on the bike, to be able to go as far as I can. It's a cyclist mindset. It's a
Hmm.
different type of fitness, but but what I found is, I wanted to have like a day job, and then my dream. So my dream is creativity and music, but then my other job is like software development. And what I found is, like, my software job was making me travel, and then I couldn't ride my bike. I couldn't go
Hmm.
hiking. I had to be on planes and stuff. And I said, well, that's not working, because then I can't really do what I like. And so I switched to a job where I was more remote. So now I can be in New Hampshire, be around all these trails, be able to hike. And because I can kind of set my time as a consultant, I decided, well, I'm going to be a consultant and do that job, and still be able to do my music. And so you kind of have to fit, like, what do you really want to do, and kind of map your life. It's like, instead of your life kind of mapping you, or the world mapping you, you got to take the reins and start to actually maybe think a little. And did you start to learn those lessons about how you can learn from whatever doesn't work and then make it work? I think those things are like life lessons that help you in your business, right?
Yeah, and it's like you find the good of what you want and the things that you don't want, and you try to learn from, the things you don't really wanna do more of, so you do less of that, hopefully, um, as I started, so it was like, I don't wanna work,
Yeah.
a ton of those hours, or I don't wanna do this, so you find the good in it, and you try to get better at those things, and the things you don't like, you try to, I would say, stay away from as much, for that, so, it took a
Yeah.
while to learn that, probably the last I
The
mean, probably
burnout.
wasn't
The
until, like, the
burnout you were
last. Yeah, that's it too, so it's like you work, 5 AM, 6 days a week, and you do that for 2 years straight. I mean, that's probably the start of every, personal trainer's, maybe not their dream, but it's like you just gotta put in the work
focus.
to get where you wanna be, and s yeah, and so some people don't realize that. They wanna say, "I wanna work, 8 to 12." I was like, "Well, that's not really ideal." You're going to train when the clients are there, and usually the clients are there from at 5 a.m. because they work, maybe an 8 to 5. So you got to be there early,
But they work,
work out
yes.
with them. Yeah. And then you got to be there after. So you may be that, 5 a.m. to 8 o'clock, and then you may have a huge break from like 8 to 2. So then what do you do? And then you got to go back. So it's just that finding the balance, and they don't tell you that, in school. That's what the training life
Yes, the
is. So I
sweet
think that's
spot.
where
Yeah.
yeah, some get burned out and they don't try to push through, so it's like it's easier just to go work for somebody else, right? Because you don't have to set you're
Hmm.
there, you get paid no matter what. You don't have to go recruit clients or this and that. So I think sometimes it's a hard reality for some, but then it's also you know what you don't want to do. You don't want to work that 8 to 5 or whatever it is and have to report to management or
Hmm.
be on calls that are, in my opinion, I thought were meetings that were pointless and things like that. So there's the good and bad with it, right?
Yeah. So what type of clients do you like to work with? Kind of driving into that. So once you start to build your own reputation, your own business, are you able to kind of get clients that map with what the way you want to work? They able to get clients where it works out where maybe you're not doing the shifts that are not optimal for you, but you find clients that can fit like the way you want to work and the way they want to work.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely possible, but it didn't. It took me. Oh man, it took me probably 4 years to figure that out. So I went into it as like more of a sports performance business because I played small college football, and I was like, I'm going to train all athletes. This is going to be great. I'm gonna make a lot of money. And then I spent a lot of my time sitting around trying to figure out what I was gonna do all day because, kids go to school, right? So you work either early in the morning and then you work
Hmm.
after school hours. So I pivoted my business probably 3.5 years ago to where I work with mainly adults, 45 and up, and then I like 90% of what I do, and then the other 10% is sports performance. And that was a little struggle for me because I was like, oh, I mean, I like working with kids. I like, helping kids get to college to play sports, but I was also like, I also need to, make a career out of this. So um, we specialize with orthopedic injuries as far as what we do. So we're
Hmm.
looking at the 45, 50 and up who have done, they might have been hardcore worker outers or they've hurt themselves doing something around the house, trying to get them back on their feet. So that's what we specialize in as far as getting people back, losing weight, feeling better, having more energy, but also kind of living life pain free. And I think that's may not find that everywhere because I think it's more like how high can your heart rate get? How much can you sweat? Um, but we kind of take a different approach with that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where we sit as far as who we work with. And it took a long time because you have all these I guess ideas or people you think, man, I mean, 30-year-olds would be great because they're getting in the workforce, they're probably kind of fit, so they're gonna be super easy to work with. Well, I found that I mean, I'm 37, that those that are, 50 and under are super inconsistent. And they may stick with you for a while and they may, stop. But those that are
They
50 and
dropped
up
off.
are like kind of yeah, the 50 and up are kind of the long-term clients. They appreciate it. They don't want to wake up and have their knees hurt, shoulders hurt, neck hurt. So they show up week in and week out,
Yeah.
even though it may not be the toughest of workouts, but they feel better. And so that's kind of where I found the bread and butter as far
Yeah.
as who we work with that. So it did take a while. I mean, it takes
Oh,
you.
that's interesting.
You
That's a
you
little
can always change it, but
counterintuitive.
it's all
That's a little counter.
yeah yeah. So you can
Yeah.
always change it, but it's like
But it's
what
weird
kind
because
of
you would have thought the younger people.
yeah. So I tried that for a little while, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, but
it's kind of frustrating because they were all on board, and they're like all off board, and not to crack on that because there's people my age they like to jump from fitness program to fitness program sometimes because it's what's the latest thing or what's the newest thing, and that's fine. Everybody has their own
yeah,
idea of what health and fitness is, but that's kind of where I stuck with like the 50 and older crowd. So it's a
that's
sweet spot right
interesting.
now.
I think it's I think what's happened with the world is like the younger people are kind of into this kind of social media world where it's like the latest thing. It's like a fad, or it's like so they jump around
Yeah.
because like the way your phone is tied to you, because you get, and so I think the older people have kind of like they kind of like, well, you know what, I don't have to do that because they're kind of like
Hmm.
more secure in themselves in terms of what I find with older people, 50, and up, is that they've kind of gone through things like that, and they're like, I want to be serious. Like I want to be. They're more determined to be present and actually show up. Where other people they can kind of get where the wind blows because they
Yeah, for
because again drawn into so many things and they don't know how to say no, and they haven't kind of built that up where with wisdom, with age, you get a little more wisdom sometimes, and you get the focus. Like, I'm actually gonna
yeah,
finish that book. I'm actually gonna do this because I wanna go hiking, and I wanna go biking, and I wanna not feel my rheumatoid arthritis, and I wanna control my
yeah, for sure.
diabetes. It's like, so I'm gonna be consistent.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100% because it's there's so much out there that I mean I get questions every day of like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm like, well, some of these things haven't changed in 100 years. It's just you can interpret it in a bunch of different ways. So if you talk to one person, they're gonna tell you it's great, and if you talk to another person, they may tell you it's bad. So it's like up for you to decide what's good and what's gonna be beneficial for you. So I agree with that 100%. Social media has had a huge influence, and some of my I would say 50 and olders, they have Facebook, and if you talk to those that are under 50, some they're like, "What is that?" So they're all on the Instagram or the TikTok. So it's the latest and greatest exercise
Yeah,
routine
yeah.
or
Well, they're all trying
diet.
the various reel challenge. Like, can I do that, 90-second reel challenge, and they're focused on that, where somebody else is like, "Well, I want something that's consistent." And also you start getting into the mindset of like somebody's more holistic, right? So I
Hmm.
guess when you talk about fitness, is it also about nutrition? It's about like balance. Do you take in account those things where sometimes people say, "Well, I'm just going to do these exercises and then ignore nutrition, ignore other parts of like the whole like picture, like all the legs of what it would take to be." Because I would think that your nutrition and your habits and your sleeping and all these other things come into play, right?
Yeah, they all do, and then everybody's a little bit different. So we try to approach everybody. I don't say it's kind of their own kind of legs of health and fitness. You've got some that we try to take the whole approach, but there's some that want to break the leg off the table per se and just say, "Hey, I don't want to stretch. I just want to do strength training, and then I want to work on eating my vegetables and drinking more water." And then there's some that like they want the total package, and there's some that's like, I don't talk to me about nutrition. I'm like 75 and I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to drink what I want. The reason I'm here is so I can do that, right? So which so we try to take that approach, but it's just the different the time of where people are in life. I work
Different
with a lot of people who
mindsets.
travel, so yeah, different mindsets, and so they're like, "Well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm here to get stronger, prevent my joint pain, and if I stretch, great. If not, then that's on me, right?" But then there's others that kind of get the total package
Mhm.
buy-in, where they're like, "Let's do everything," and that's where our total approach is. I mean, our whole from when they walk into every session they have. I mean, we're working on coaching them on just small things, not to like hit them over the head with meal plans, but how's your eating been this week? I know you're busy. You're driving people to appointments, or you're traveling a lot this week, like what can we do better? And we try to talk it that way, and just give other little, you know, tidbits and pointers on that, because everybody has their own way of eating and their own things they like and don't like. So it's very hard sometimes to say this is specifically what you should do, because in the past you can do that, and now I would do that, and they look at it and kind of laugh in my face, right? Like, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. So just finding the what approach is going to
Yeah,
work for each individual person,
individual.
right? Yeah, and that's what's been the most
Yeah,
helpful, because
it's like an individual.
in a,
Like when I've talked to,
yeah, so it's individualized for
yeah, I
them, but
mean when
there's
I've talked to others, yeah.
yeah, I agree
Okay. But I guess like what I'm saying is like a lot of life coaches, what I've seen, it's not a one size fits all. Like what
for
seems to
sure.
happen is like individual, um, the individuality of people is starting to be like the primary thing that people are looking for. Where it used to be like I'm a child of the '70s, everybody thought they could fit in a box. So
Yeah,
everybody can do this, and it's going to work for everybody. Where everybody now is like, well, customized plans to who I am as an individual seem to be more like the thing. Is that what you find?
yeah, it is, and there's a few of those kind of there's probably a lot that fit in the same box. It's just you're gonna make some modifications or some slight changes. So it's, there's some people that are, I would say, 5 steps behind everybody else, but then there's others that are way advanced. So you're just gonna have to modify and plug and play where it tends to be the best fit for people. So
Where it
we're
works?
yeah, the one size
Mhm,
fits all program is what I would say probably more for your larger group stuff. Things we don't really focus on. We
mhm,
focus on like 4 to 6 people. So you're getting individualized training with, I would say, like 6 of your closest friends, right? We're all there to get healthier. We're all there to get better. And so we're going to do it together. We're just going to be doing slightly different things.
mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good approach because it's like a micro approach rather than like, why somebody will probably come to a more customized personal trainer is because they don't want that like in a group of like 100 people all doing the same thing because they found that what
Yeah.
doesn't work for them. They want something that's more personal and actually is going to speak to them, and plus somebody that actually knows where you are. Like you do an assessment and he's like, hey, this person is 5 steps behind or this person's 5 steps ahead, so I can go do this with this person out the toolkit instead of like making them everybody start at the same spot. Like 'cause everybody started at the same
Yeah.
spot, like, well, I'm not really there.
Yeah, well, you get to where some are like, well, this is too easy for me, and sometimes I have to say, like, that's great. I want it to be easy so that way we can do more advanced stuff. So if it's easy now, just wait till it gets harder, because it's going to get harder, but we've got to start somewhere with it, right? Based on the
Mhm,
evaluations and kind of putting you in
mhm.
in one kind of bucket as far as where you are. So don't be fooled by the easiness, because it does get harder down the road.
So, do you have any success stories you can tell, and maybe talk about like how that like works with your marketing? So, do you like look at your success stories and help use that to help push your marketing, or vice versa? Like maybe you can talk about those stories.
Yeah, so I like to get to where I'll take, it's easier for me to get more success stories from my athletes. They love to be on camera. They love to talk and share kind of what they've accomplished, and I want them to do that, because it's something that sometimes they come in with little confidence and not really sure what to expect, but just kind of see them talk about their achievements, what they've accomplished, not only in the weight room, but maybe it's on the basketball court or the baseball field, or something that, it could have been a limiting factor before, not, hitting the ball very far, to now hitting 4 home runs. I definitely use those as far as a marketing push. And so what I do for that is I pay for that directly, and then I give it to them as kind of a thank you gift as far as training with me. And so I will give it to the kid. I'll send it to the kids, but I'll also send it to the parents. for that, and
Hmm.
nothing more exciting than having like a little highlight video of your kid working out and explaining why they're so excited to be there. I do the same thing with my adults with that. So I have found that depending on the person, my adults are very timid and shy of being on camera. They're not really sure what to say, which is fine. It's not for everybody, but those who are usually my biggest kind of spokespeople for
Hmm.
the gym itself. I would say for one, there's a gentleman on my website. He's been training me for probably 10 plus years. He's a former NFL running back. Has had plenty of injuries over the years, from meniscus repair to weight gain, high blood pressure to a ruptured Achilles, to a lot of different things. And so the biggest thing for him is I've pushed him to be better and how he can he looks now, like he always says in the videos, he looks like he can still play NFL football, and that's kind of a
Hmm.
thing for him. Is like he shows up, he still puts in the work, and everybody that sees him thinks that he's still an athlete in his mind, right? And that's the biggest thing, biggest reward, and you know, it's always fun to hear that. And there's another kind of big one. I've got a successful business kind of entrepreneur guy who does Krav Maga. That's Israeli fighting and self defense, and so he's torn his ACL. That's where I met him. He tore his labrum in his shoulder. Got super overweight and just kind of blah feeling. Kind of, I don't want to say depressed, but wasn't really doing anything. And so he's on there to where he's back now. I don't see he's not competing, but he's the owner of the business, but he's also back in there as much as he can be. He's training 3 days a week now with me. There's others. A lady's lost 60 pounds in the matter of like 2 years and 40 inches, and she's a hairstylist. She's a very successful hairstylist. She stands on her feet all day, and she's always talking to people. So she's sharing her story with just about everybody who sits in her chair, right? That's the biggest form of marketing
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
have,
that's a
people who
big.
love what you do and share their success because they've known her, maybe for years of cutting their hair, and then it's now they're coming back going, man, something's different about you. You look happier.
Mhm.
You look like you're moving better. You're feeling better. Like, tell me more. And she sent me plenty of referrals. So I think that's the biggest thing you can utilize for marketing is successful testimonial videos that not only you can put on your social media, but I use it as like running for ads and things like that with copy. So
Oh
people
wow.
see it's real people with real results, right? Not just me
So when
talking
you
about
run
it.
those ads,
I get them to share
so
about
when
it.
you mm, so do you run those ads like on TV or print or social media? Where do you put them?
I've never done TV or print. It's more just like a kind of, I call it no like and trust on social media. So it's Facebook and Instagram. So it's
Mhm.
maybe a little tidbit about that person, their success, and then it's run it for $1 or two a day with a click back link to our program so people can find more information. I think with so much out there as far as like cold traffic, people don't know who you are. I think it's a great way to maybe get more people in front of you that may not know, or they've heard about you but they're not really sure. So having
Mhm.
those real people, real results, and just them sharing from kind of their heart. I mean, because you get kind of people get emotional on those videos, right? It's not that
Yeah.
it's not intentional. They really get to where they're sharing their feelings and sharing their results, and I think people can kind of connect with that.
Yeah, I think it's very authentic when if you have word of mouth from another business person, and you've given a couple examples of business people like the hairdresser or for somebody that has another business, and then they openly give you that word of mouth, that's gold. That can work better than anything. Like if you get people that are willing to actually speak out and
Mhm.
give you that personal referral, then you have like the repeat customer that's bringing in another customer that becomes a repeat customer. That's kind of like the basis. I've talked to a bunch of entrepreneurs is like the cost of trying to get new customers versus having somebody that's a loyal customer that's giving referrals and bringing in additional customers who are going to stay with you. So I think that that's a really good sign that when you've got people that are, with you for a period and can speak to your services and tell people like, yeah, it changed my life. It's helping me right now. You can see it, you can feel it, and then that's more authentic than anything that you can kind of put out there from an actor. If you you go get somebody actor and say, hey,
Yeah,
versus somebody that actually is really done it.
yeah, it's just more it's a more of a connection for that, and you're going to get those paid leads, but that's cold traffic, right? So it's better to
Yeah.
get it from I'll say a warm lead where it's somebody that's talked to somebody who's noticed something, or I have a current one right now who was she hasn't done a video, but she was bedridden for about 3 years with lupus and arthritis, or a lot of joint pain and discomfort. And now it's 6 months into it, and man, she's told, I feel like everybody she's even talked to about how the training itself has changed her life. And she's got a list of running people that she's told me about, that they're going to come see me. It's just a matter of when, right? So that's
Yeah,
always a good feeling.
that's really awesome. Because I think a lot of people sometimes they get so caught up in today the world, it's so you know maybe not conducive to doing things that are good for you. People get
Mhm.
stuck into things that are like unhealthy habits and trying to get into, at least getting into fitness and getting into understanding your body, like knowing when like your body is telling you something. And it's like when you get to a personal performance trainer, like you guys are listening to your bodies. If you're injured, you know what to do if you have an injury, how to come back. So maybe you can kind of talk about that kind of rehabilitation, or at least understanding when you need to reach out to somebody that beyond yourself, that you have to actually find out like, what do I need to do to get back? After I have like an Achilles, an injury or some kind of issue, uh, uh, torn tendon or something. Like, how do you, you know, maybe you can talk about that whole process, because maybe people don't understand. Like, how do you come back from these things?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is like once you have those injuries, is like be compliant with your physical therapy, because it's the biggest number one kind of contender. Is people think after like 10 visits they feel like they can just go do whatever they want to, and then 5 years later they're in excruciating pain because they didn't do their physical therapy. So that'd be the first thing to do. Finish your visits, and then I would say I'm kind of the complementary factor of like what's next. Like a lot of people will go back and do the same thing they were doing in the gym, and it's really not conducive to your injury. I mean, I had reconstructive elbow surgery 5 years ago, and there's plenty of things I'd love to do, but I just can't do them anymore because I don't have the range of motion. So you kind of have to listen to your body and say, all right, is this going to be worth it in the next 15 years, or do I need to do something different? And I think
Yes.
what gets most people with that is they do the same old thing all the time, and so it's not till four, maybe two or three things start to hurt where they want to seek extra advice, or they're just not getting the results they want. So that's where, I would come into play, either post therapy visits, or you're just like run out of options of what to do. So, if you're coming from therapy, my biggest kind of connection on that is to one, bring you in. And if you're ready to sign up, I'm going to reach out directly to your physical therapist. Reason why is I want to be on the same page as far as what you've been doing and what we want to do moving forward. So that way, we're not going to put
Mhm.
you in a position to re-injure yourself, or to, put yourself back in physical therapy for the second time. So I think that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing that could be helpful for some people, is to one, kind of build that team around you, whether it's your physical therapist, your trainer, your nutritionist, your chiropractor, whoever you use for to kind of your health and fitness. You've got to all be on the same page to kind of live that long-term lifestyle as far as that. Because if we're all speaking different languages and doing different things, it may not be tomorrow, but eventually something's going to be kind of out of whack. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Build your team around like-minded people who are going to be on the same page with stuff to get you back where you need to be. Because if not, you're going to be paying a lot of money for therapy, a lot of money for training, and you're just going to be in a kind of a full circle doing the same old thing all the time, and you're not going to get much results with it.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to have that communication. I think that's really important, that you have coordination and communication. And it's kind of like, if you think about some people, like they don't talk about, like they don't tell their doctor, they don't tell somebody what's really
Mhm.
going on. Like, so if you're not being honest with your therapist or your trainer, and you're not telling them that you're actually having pain, right? And you're not actually saying what the issue is. It's like, well, how is anybody going to know if you can't be honest, right? So I think that you have to be at this point where you can actually relay what is actually going on. So you have to know how to read your own body, right? So is that something you have to teach people how to realize? Like, oh, that you understand your limitation, like you were talking about your range of motion, and somebody might be like in denial of that. So how do you deal with somebody that
Oh, for
is not being truthful about what's really going on? Maybe you can see it. You'll probably
yeah.
able to see it, but
Yeah, well, sometimes they hold it back way after the fact, and you're like, "Well, how long has this been going on?" They're like, "Oh, for the last month and a half." So it's like easy. I'd say it's easier to kind of nip it right off the bat and trying to get the assistance you need, whether it's from the trainer itself or refer out to get further assistance to kind of reduce that pain and discomfort. Because if you let it linger and go on a long period of time, it's going to take longer to get back where you want to be to feeling better. And I've had a few of those where it's like, my hamstring hurts and it's causing pain. Well, we've tried a few things, go get a cortisone shot. Well, sometimes that's what people want to do to kind of mask it, to get the inflammation down, which is okay. But if it's continuing to hurt 3 and 4 months down the road, like we need to go get it checked out because something else is going on. So um, I will refer out to those and then try to get a game plan once they've had seen the physician or orthopedic, whoever they go to kind of say, all right, this is what they think's going on, or this is exactly what's going on, to kind of get that game plan. Because people don't want to tell you they're hurt because they feel like they're going to have to do less and their strength is going to go down. But I always say there's always things we can do. It just may not be what you really want to do right now. So we can still
Mhm.
exercise and get your movement in and be strong. We just might be getting stronger in other areas that you're not really efficient in right now. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like, clip it quick. If you're hurt and you're in pain and it's lasting longer than 2 weeks, like, go figure it out because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, that's an important thing. I think we've talked about that in a lot of different areas, but it's important to kind of really understand where you are in anything that you
Yeah.
do. And uh, one of the other things I was wondering is like, how could you like maybe top three things you could talk to other aspiring trainers, like things like you learned like when you get into it. Like, so if we kind of step back and say, what maybe what are the top three things you can offer to somebody that's like an aspiring trainer, what what they could do to kind of maybe avoid pitfalls.
Yeah, I would say, first thing is try to figure out who exactly you want to work with. I know we always say pick your niche or your niche, who you want to work with, but I say sometimes it's ever evolving, so you got to figure that out first, because if not, you'll be training anybody and everybody, and there's going to be people you really like, and there's going to be people who you really don't want to work with, but you do it because you have to make some kind of income. So you'll get to a point where you can kind of just work with exactly the people you want to work with, and may not be in a year, maybe 5 years down the road, but it can eventually happen as long as you have kind of a plan in place. Two, I would say, find you a good accountant, somebody who
Mm,
can help you along the way. That's one thing I was not real keen on, and um, my own experience was saving for things and then had to pay out a large sum of tax money for that. It was kind of a shock, and um, kind of a kick in the gut as far as business goes. So just finding out what to put back and what to spend. So somebody with some little guidance, because if not, you're going to be at the end of the year. It's going to be tough for you to probably come back from paying your taxes overall. And three is
mm,
just, I would say, find a schedule you like to work and stick to it. Um, and that was always hard for me. I've just gotten to where I've kind of built a small team, so there's hours I have to work just because that's where we are right now as the business, but there's also um, hours I don't ever want to work, and that's because I take my kids to school, or I've got pick up or drop off, or I've got sports stuff. So there's things that you need to set those boundaries, because clients will walk all over you and they will walk all over your schedule if you're not careful with that. And you may say that'll never happen to me, but it's going to happen, because sometimes clients think you have this open availability and you don't train anybody else but them. So you have to kind of set that guardrail up of like, this is when we're training, this is what I have available, and you need to say no to a lot of things.
Do you have, like in your industry, fitness like associations or conventions that you go to learn about the latest things? And do you get involved with like a group of other fitness professionals and kind of talk to the trade or learn the latest things? Do you guys do you have any kind of experience with that?
I don't go to so much of the associations, but as far as like what I've learned or what I do, I'm part of like a fitness business. Everybody calls them masterminds, or a group of fitness business is entrepreneurs all around the US and some are overseas. So like meeting with them quarterly, or having mentors to kind of say, hey, this is where we think things are going. This is what you should maybe look for. I think those are big things that people should uh, do. It's an investment, and you sometimes you have to invest in those things to learn more about what you need to do more or less of. And so I think that's I didn't join one of those or do one of that. I've been in it for I think 6 years. So like the first 2 years, I was kind of just running amok, not really sure what I wanted to do. So I think those things are helpful, but also going
Hmm.
to like live events. Live events are good too. I haven't done like the big associations in a long time, but just learning some of it is stuff you already know, but it's good to hear it again. You may pick up one or two little things that you forgot about, or you might want to implement in your training sessions that could make those a lot better. So do think those are helpful, and you should attend at least one or two of those every so often, just to stay fresh, right?
Hmm. Have you ever thought of doing like a mastermind type of thing, like on the net, like do a YouTube mastermind, like on a webinar, or have you thought about that kind of aspect of it? Or have you been more focused on the actual day to day business and maybe not in that space?
Not so much in that space. I mean, I talk kind of directly with like my friends who are in the area of different things, but everybody has their reasons for why they do things. So mine's more of sticking in the realm as far as what I'm doing. I say in order for me to, I need a few more years under my belt before I do anything like that. But
Hmm.
still new to the ownership, entrepreneurship, and there's things that I'm really well at, and there's things that I'm not good at. I'm pretty bad at. So until I can maximize and do better at those things, and I have no reason to start a
Yeah,
mastermind
yeah, yeah.
with
But
that.
yeah,
But maybe
everybody.
maybe on a like a yeah, let a maybe a local level, like just some local gym owners that maybe need a little bit of inspiration or help,
Yeah,
and that's those side of
well, like
things,
a
right?
mentorship type. Right, like a mentorship program, because 'cause you've been doing it for such a long, maybe there's, like, younger people you could get into, like,
Yeah.
mentorship with, like, other entrepreneurs or trainers, or, in terms of also even, like, when you find your employees, like, how do you find your employees? How do you, find people who are fitness trainers? Like, how do you put things on LinkedIn? Do you have a way to find, workers for your business?
Yeah, so the first one I had was a actually my brother knew him. He was a local college student, but he was looking for an internship. So I think internships are a good way to find employees. If they're a good fit or not, you'll know during the internship. You don't have to hire them right off the
Mm,
bat, but it's a good way to find out kind of their um, kind of drive to work, or they're motivated, or they're going to show up on time and do the work, and those sides. So it's a good auditing session, I guess, during that maybe 3 month or 4 month internship. But the other ways, I've tried LinkedIn, I've tried other ways, and for me, it just wasn't a good fit. So I just asked my
mhm.
clients, to be honest with you.
Wow,
Sometimes
that's
they've got yeah, friends or family, and so
good.
the last hire I had was a client of mine. She's been training me for 3 years. She knew she drives for a retirement home, so she drives people to their appointments, and they have an on-site fitness center for the people who live there on site. So there was a trainer there who she knew that maternity leave was coming up, so her time was going to be cut shorter, or she was going to be, less hours. So she literally just came into the gym one day with a folder, manila folder, and was like, "Hey, I got something for you." And I was like, "What is this?" I thought it was like, maybe a script or a doctor's note or something. And she handed me a resume and said, "I've got somebody for you." And man, I'll tell you what, it's been great. It's probably been the best two people I could find, just people that knew, and clients love them. And it's always good to know that everybody's always looking out for you. Sometimes you just have to ask, and that's
Hmm.
whether that's through email too, or social media. I've done, and I've gotten names before, but no one's contacted me back. So sometimes you just have to look inside your inner circle and figure out somebody knows somebody who knows somebody else, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's interesting. Yeah, sometimes your clients like end up becoming your workers, like you say, or sometimes it's somebody
Yeah.
that knows somebody. There's like that kind of closer network that because you have all these like tools, and sometimes those tools don't work, and so you have to kind of find what works, especially when you're building your own brand. Like
Hmm.
branding, so many people today, have their own brands and are not it's not always going to be like the one size fits all. Some of these services don't actually have the connection that you feel comfortable because like people are looking for like trusted relationships. That's why I think is like you want somebody that say, I don't know about this system because it's like I don't know who this person is. You want
Yeah.
somebody that's more of a personal human relationship that you can kind of understand, like, was this person going to work or not, rather than just looking at the piece of paper. But
Yeah.
so maybe yeah, the whole story about how you got into the industry is really interesting. It's like it was a passion. You pushed on it, you wanted it, and you found it, and you do you feel um that the way you got into this industry, is there another way you thought you could have done it? Is there a way maybe you could talk about like the how you found yourself in the position you're in now? Would you have thought of a different way to do it, or you would have just wanted it to happen the way it did?
I don't know, because I was, I guess, way before the kind of getting fired. I was looking for a new job anyway, so it just kind of had to happen, right? Yeah, I really didn't have an
Mhm.
option. It was either find another corporate job or see if this would work. And so I think it's kind of trial by fire. It was, the worst timing, but also the best decision. Because not only, I mean, I didn't really know if it would work or not. No one does, right? So it's just kind of putting forth the effort, energy, and staying consistent. I think that's what really helped me. Because I mean, a year and a half into it, I was kind of done. I didn't really know. It was like it was a lot of work, a lot of energy wasted. I felt, and just things weren't really, going the way you think. And I would say this is the thought process. I think some people is I've got a gym and I'm a trainer, so people are going to just show up and I'm going to have all this money and all these clients. Well, I'll tell you what, that doesn't work. Doesn't happen. You've got to go actually, make a name for yourself, build relationships, be a part of the community and do things, network and shake hands and do all kinds of stuff with people for it to work out. And so, um, it's I would say I would say it wasn't lucky, but it just putting my head down and doing the work that a lot of people don't want to do to make it work is kind of where it got me to right now.
So yeah, it's that kind of fire in the belly of kind of having that opportunity because it presented itself because it's that kind of trial by fire, as you said. As I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that found themselves in the seat they're in because of something like that. That they like, oh, like
Hmm.
they was gonna be do or die. You had to do it, and like that kind of drives it. That you have to you put the passion in. You put the passion work. Plus, it's if something that you really believe in and you really want to do, then your passion starts to, be infectious. It's like the law of attraction. Like if you
Oh, for
are
sure.
really into it, right, then people feel like, well, he is this. He's a fitness guy. That's it. That's it. So when I go to him, that's what he is. That's what I'm looking for. So, right, you become that.
Yeah, and it's funny you say the law of attraction. If you, I would say like attracts like. That's the type of, um, I guess the way I present myself is the type of people I want to kind of bring into the facility as well. And it just kind of just so happened like that everybody who is coming to the gym is kind of the right person, right? And I say the right person
Mhm.
is like they're fun to work with, they're energetic, they get along with everybody, and it's like most say I want a community feel, and I feel like I've gotten to the point where it's become more of a community feel. Clients are going on like 2 week long trips overseas with people. They're hanging out outside of the workouts.
So you have
I've
a whole
got some of
community.
my, yeah, and some of the, even like some of my college kids come to support my kids. My kids are younger, they're athletes. So they'll come to their event. So it's kind of a cool thing once you kind of get the plan in place and things start to work in your favor.
It's like that neighborhood business, it's like the chamber of commerce, like Main Street kind of mentality of like, it's that feels like, yeah, this business is part of the community, and then people get tied
Mhm.
to it, and they know it, like the barbershop. Your fitness gym
Yeah.
becomes iconic like that. It becomes something that's like the barbershop. People go and they talk, even when they get their
Mhm.
haircut, but they talk. It's a connection. It's like a meeting place. If your business becomes that kind of socially, tied to the community meeting place where it's like, yeah, we have friends here, with people we know here. The people, like, I know their kids. I know this person. I know that person. We hang out together after. Then you start to really get a vibe. And I think that's what you want with any business. You want that vibe where people say, yeah, I want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where we're getting there. It's gotten pretty close to where I want it to be, and it's kind of that people where people may not be having the best of days, but when they show up, they've had a better day once they leave, right? So it's just
Hmm.
they want to be there. They want to they may not want to work out, but they're going to work out because their friends there, or the friends coming in after them, so they want to show up because if not, we're going to ask about them, right?
Yeah. Well, I think this has been a great kind of picture of the kind of business that we like to talk about. We like to promote people's adventures on this podcast. We like to take people maybe people don't know about, or their ideas, or what their services are. And I think you've presented a really interesting picture of like fitness and how it can connect. And I hope people will click on premierperformancetrainer.com and check you out, and see what you have to offer. And it brings you more customers and more people that experience what you bring to the table. I want to thank you again for being on the podcast. I love to have different points of view. So I love the fact that you were on our show today. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been fun, and hope somebody took away something and they can implement it in their life or their business. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.